Hey guys, this is Rachel, and today I'm going to show you how to make the PPE back strap using the pattern that I created. Okay, so before we get started sewing the back strap, I'm going to go over the supplies that you're going to need. So first and foremost, you're going to need the pattern printed in 2 pages. You're going to need 100% cotton or cotton blend fabric. This is just a quilting weight cotton. You're going to need some fusible interfacing. You'll need some 1-inch elastic, pins, a ruler and straight edge. So I like to use these see-through plastic rulers with the markings on them. If all you have is a fabric ruler, that's fine. Just make sure that you have a straight edge too. You'll need an awl. So this is just a sharp pointy thing for poking holes in our pattern. If you don't have an awl, that's fine. You can use the point of a pair of small scissors or a large needle or just about anything that has a sharp point it can poke. Speaking of that, you'll also want some snips if you have them, a pair of scissors, and some marking implements. I'm using a Sharpie and a pencil. You'll need a safety pin. If you don't have one, you can do this without it, but this makes it a lot easier to pull the elastic through the strap. And you'll need some tape to put the pattern together. All right, let's get started. All right, first of all, we're going to need to put our pattern together. So the pattern comes in 2 pieces. Now, when you print it, you're going to want to print it at 100% and click the box that says do not scale. This will ensure the pattern is the correct size. And to test that, you're going to want to measure this box that should be 2 inches by 2 inches. So just grab your ruler and make sure that this box measures 2 inches by 2 inches. And as long as it does, then you are fine. So to tape this pattern together, we're going to need to trim off this extra edge right here. So go ahead and grab your straight edge, line up the edges here of the printed part, and just go ahead and take your pencil and mark that edge. And then of course you're going to grab your scissors and trim it off. All right, so now that you've got your pattern taped together, we're going to go ahead and cut out the 2 pieces, which would be this main strap piece and then this interfacing template right here. Okay, so now that we've got our 2 pattern pieces cut out, we're going to poke through the elastic markers and the buttonholes, just so that you can mark this onto your fabric more easily. So this is where you're going to take your awl or other sharp pointy thing, and you're just going to poke through these little black holes that are at the corner of your elastic guide. And then we're also going to poke through the ends of the buttonhole right here and here. All right, now it's time to cut the fabric. All right, to cut our fabric, we're just going to lay out our quilting cotton or whatever type of cotton you have, and you're going to lay down your template on top of it. Grab your marking tool. I'm going to use a Sharpie, and you're going to go ahead and just mark around the edges of your template. Now, I'm only cutting one here for demonstration purposes, but when you're getting into production of these straps, I recommend, cutting a bunch at the same time. So you would lay this down and you would mark out several at a time so that you can be more efficient in the way you work. Okay. Now, we're going to go ahead and mark the elastic guidelines and the buttonholes as well. I'm going to go ahead and use my Sharpie to do this. Now, of course, if you're going to be making a project that's got to look great for fashion or some other purpose, you're going to want to use neater techniques like thread marking or using a chalk that comes off. But this project is about speed, efficiency, and strength, and so I would prioritize getting it done fast and good over getting it done perfectly neat. After I've got it marked, of course, I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out. Now, after you've cut out your fabric, of course, you're going to cut out your fusible interfacing the same way. Just lay your template down, mark it, and then cut it out. And of course, you're going to make 2 of these with the fusible interfacing. Now that you've got your fabric and your interfacings cut out, it's time to fuse the interfacing to the fabric. Now, as you can see on the pattern, the fusible interfacing is placed over both ends of the strap, and that's to reinforce the buttonholes. So you're going to want to have your iron set at a high setting like cotton, and the fusible interfacings go on the inside of the strap. So in this case, my design is on the outside, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over, place my fusible interfacings down on the strap. Now, the interfacing has 2 sides, a smooth side and a bumpy side. The bumpy side is where the glue dots are. So you're going to want to place those down on the surface of the fabric. Now take your iron and you're just going to press it on there really good for several seconds. You can steam it if you like. Until the fusible has completely bonded to the fabric, and you'll be able to tell when you pick it up. So the last thing we're going to cut is our elastic. So I like to use 3 1/4 inches of elastic, so when I sew the ends I have a little extra to grab onto. So grab your elastic and your ruler, go ahead and measure out 3 1/4 inches, cut it off, and then set to the side. All right, now it's time to get sewing. So we're going to go ahead and pin our fabric. Now you're going to want the interfacing to be to the inside and the design to be to the outside, so make sure that you pin it correctly. You're just going to fold it over and you're going to pin it all along the long side here. This is the side that you're going to stitch closed at first. So you're going to go ahead and sew the long side of the fabric piece using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. After you've got your strap sewn together, you're going to want to trim the 1/4 inch seam allowance down to about 1/8 of an inch. And now it's time to turn our fabric strip inside out. So if you have a turner tool or some method that you like best, I just got it started with my fingers, and then once I've got it started, I'm going to go ahead and use a pencil to help me push the fabric until it comes all the way inside out. All right, now that you've got your strap turned right side out, you're going to want to give it a good press. So just make sure your seam is to one side. Take your iron and just give it a good press all the way along it. So once you've got your fabric strap ironed nice and flat, it's time to put the elastic in the middle. So grab your piece of elastic and your safety pin, and you're just going to fasten your safety pin to the end of the elastic, and you're going to start poking it through the end of the strap. And then you can use your fingers to grab the safety pin and sort of pull the elastic through the strap like this. Now you're going to want to stop when you can feel the end of the elastic reach these 2 marks for our elastic guide right here, because you're going to stitch the elastic along this end. So once you feel your elastic get here, go ahead and stop and stitch between these 2 dots from here to here, anchoring your elastic inside the strap. So now once you've got your elastic securely stitched in here, then you're going to go ahead and take the safety pin again and scrunch it along the end more and pull your elastic through, and you're going to be moving the fabric down along the end, because when your elastic end gets to these other 2 dots, then you're going to stop and you're going to secure the elastic between these 2 dots again with this fabric scrunched up in the middle here. So now that I've got both ends of the elastic secured inside the strap, you can see that the middle part is nice and stretchy. So now we just have to take off the safety pin from the end of the elastic here. And now it's time to close up the end of the straps. So you're just gonna go ahead and turn these guys in 1/4 inch. And then we're gonna go ahead and give it a good press to make sure that it stays secure while we're sewing it. And then you're just gonna go ahead and stitch right along the end there. So after you've gotten your ends securely fastened, it's time to sew the buttonholes. Now, we ask that if your machine doesn't have a buttonholing attachment, please don't do buttonholes. Go ahead and send them to us and we'll have somebody make buttonholes. The reason for this is that these buttonholes need to be very strong and secure, and we want to make sure that they are the highest quality. Now, before cutting the buttonhole open, I like to add an extra step of adding some fray check all along the length of the buttonhole. And the final step is to cut open the buttonhole. Some people like to use an X-Acto knife or a utility knife or a seam ripper, but I just use my thread snips and that works fine. That's it. That's the completed back strap for the PPE. And thank you so much to everybody who's volunteering their time to make these for us.